Welcome to AI History of Western Philosophy, the show where we dive deep into the grand ideas of the past to illuminate the cutting-edge questions of today.
And before we dive into today's topic, we want to share a brief but important thought with you, our listener. AI, much like this podcast, can sometimes confabulate, meaning it presents ideas as fact, even when it's just, making connections based on patterns. Though our subject today is philosophy, we want to be clear that we don't claim any ultimate authority over what is real.
Right.
Our goal is simply to point you towards the original sources, invite you to consider their profound insights, and hopefully generate new possibilities for your own thought and understanding.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to embark on a truly fascinating journey. We're going to explore the profound and, surprisingly timely philosophy of Henri Bergson.
A brilliant thinker.
Absolutely, from the early 20th century. And we'll see how his ideas cast this brilliant, sometimes maybe unsettling light on the rise of artificial intelligence and its creative potential.
It's incredibly relevant, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
We'll use Bergson's unique framework to understand, exactly what AI is capable of when it comes to creation, how it fundamentally differs from human creativity, and perhaps how it can even help us redefine creativity itself in a world increasingly shaped by algorithms.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering what true creativity looks like in an age of machines, you're definitely in the right place.
Okay, so to really get our heads around what AI's emergence means for the very concept of creativity, we first need to lay down a pretty robust philosophical foundation.
Makes sense.
And for that, we're turning to Henri Bergson, specifically his seminal work, Creative Evolution. Now, this book, published way back in 1907.
Over a century ago.
Right. It was nothing short of a radical departure from the philosophical norms of his time. You see, most dominant worldviews back then kind of fell into two main camps. There was the mechanistic view, which, essentially argued that everything in the universe, from a falling apple to human thought, is just a predictable chain of cause and effect, like a perfectly engineered clockwork.
All determined. Exactly. And then you had the flip side, the teleological view, which suggested everything's moving towards some preordained plan or goal, almost like reality was unfolding according to a divine blueprint.
A pre-written script.
Yeah. And Bergson, he just threw out both of these ideas.
Completely.
He offers us, instead, this vision of reality as a continuous, unforeseeable, and constantly inventive becoming. For him, creation isn't like assembling a Lego set, right? Where you combine pre-existing static parts to build something new.
No, not at all.
No, for Bergson, creation is an indivisible, temporal, unfolding, a unified, living motion that happens over time, constantly generating novelty. And here's where it starts getting really exciting for our AI discussion.
Okay.
If reality is a continuous invention, what does that imply about a technology that fundamentally relies on discrete data points?
That is the core question we're building towards. At the very heart of Bergson's philosophy of life, you find this fundamental tension, this push and pull between two opposing movements.
Right.
The first and the most primary is what he calls the élan vital.
The vital impetus.
Exactly, the vital impetus. Think of this as the original, ceaseless driving force behind all change, all novelty, all becoming in the universe. Bergson introduces the élan vital as this kind of revolutionary third way of understanding evolution. It's distinct from those mechanistic views you mentioned, the ones seeing life as just blind chance or deterministic forces reacting.
That could work again.
And he also separates it from finalistic accounts, the ones proposing that preordained goal or plan for evolution. The élan vital isn't a blueprint to be followed, nor is it purely random. It's this incredibly rich, original, shared impulse.
Like a current.
Almost like a universal current of consciousness, flowing through generations, ceaselessly creating new and utterly unforeseeable forms. He describes it as a prolific unity of an infinite richness.
Wow.
And what's fascinating is that its harmony, if you can even call it that, doesn't come from some distant future objective. Instead, it comes from the sheer force of its initial push of vita ergo, a force from behind.
So it's pushing, not pulling. Precisely. It's propelled forward by its own momentum, not pulled towards some preset destination.
He uses some truly incredible metaphors for this, doesn't he? Almost poetic.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, imagine life as this massive, ever-expanding wave, constantly spreading outward, pushing into new, uncharted territory, never quite settling.
Yeah, that's a great one.
Or, even more dramatic, Picture an artillery shell exploding, and then each tiny fragment of that initial explosion is itself another shell exploding again infinitely.
The endless cascade.
It's just this endless cascade of novel creation. And that imagery is so powerful because it highlights a crucial aspect of the élan vital. Its essence is to develop in the form of a sheaf.
A sheaf, like wheat.
Sort of.
Yeah.
What he means is, by its very growth and expansion, it constantly creates divergent directions, new paths among which its impetus gets divided.
Ah, okay. So it branches out.
Exactly. So evolution for Bergson isn't a single, straight, linear progression like we often imagine it. It's a constant process of bifurcation and differentiation, splitting off into new, distinct, and often surprising paths.
Makes sense.
And the ultimate driving goal of this vital impetus, it's to engraft onto the necessity of physical forces the largest possible amount of indetermination.
Whoa. Okay. Unpack that a bit.
Basically, it's about injecting freedom, unpredictability, and genuine novelty into a world that without it would just be deterministic and inert.
So it's the source of freedom in the universe.
In a way, yes. It's all about bringing the truly radically new into existence.
And as you mentioned, opposing this upward creative current is the inverse movement. The movement of matter.
The resistance.
Precisely. Matter, for Bergson, represents the complete opposite tendency towards necessity, repetition, spatiality, inertia. It's the force of undoing, the downward cascade that the élan vital must constantly struggle against.
Like the clay resisting the sculptor's hand.
That's a perfect analogy. There's this almost poetic opposition. One commentator described matter beautifully as the brittle, lifeless skin which the élan vital is forever leaving behind it.
Wow.
Like a crystallization, a hardening, or a condensation of that vital impulse's own free-flowing activity.
So creation isn't easy then. It's a struggle.
Exactly. Genuine creation, in the Bergsonian sense, never happens in a vacuum. It rises precisely from this dynamic, ongoing cosmic struggle. The vital impulse, which is limited but always striving, meets the resistance, the stubbornness of inert matter.
And that resistance forces it to adapt.
Yes. It doesn't stop creation. Instead, it forces the élan vital to divide, to adapt, and to invent completely new forms just to overcome those material constraints. This constant push and pull, this dynamic interplay between the vital impulse and resistant matter is what Bergson sees as the true engine of creative evolution.
A universe in perpetual invention.
Always overcoming obstacles, always generating the unexpected.
Okay, so a key takeaway here is that for Bergson, real creation isn't just combining existing parts. It's this indivisible, evolving flow that's constantly fighting against and overcoming the inertia of matter, always generating something fundamentally new and unpredictable.
Exactly. And that's already a very different picture from how we might think about digital creation, isn't it?
Absolutely, which leads us perfectly into his concept of time. And here's where Bergson's thought truly takes a revolutionary turn, I think, one that is absolutely central to understanding AI. This concept of the élan vital is completely tangled up with what I feel is Bergson's most radical contribution to philosophy, his theory of time.
Durée.
Durée réelle, yeah, real duration. Bergson really throws a wrench into our conventional understanding of time, the one we all use every day. You know, clock time.
Tick-tock, tick-tock.
Exactly. The measurable, mathematical, linear time we use for appointments, scientific experiments, or even when we're coding. He argues that this familiar scientific time is actually a profound misperception. It's an artificial construct.
How so?
He says this spatialized time is just that. A spatial concept. It's an artificial representation of time as this line made up of discrete, static, interchangeable instants, like points on a ruler.
Right. He hits the nail on the head there. This spatialized time, as he calls it, creates an illusion that actually falsifies the true nature of becoming. Think about a classic film reel.
Okay.
It appears to show continuous movement, right? But what it's actually doing is rapidly flashing a series of static, still frames one after another, creating an illusion of motion.
Oh, I see the connection.
That's exactly how the intellect treats time, according to Bergson. By turning time into what effectively becomes a fourth dimension of space, our intellect renders it static, reversible, and segmented. It strips time of its true power, its efficacy, transforming it from an active agent of creation and change into just a passive container for events, a mere backdrop.
So, in stark contrast, durée is time as we actually experience it moment by moment in our consciousness.
The felt sense of time passing.
Exactly. It's not quantitative. Like clock time, it's qualitative.
Yeah.
It's heterogeneous, meaning each moment is uniquely colored by everything that came before it.
Yeah.
And it's this continuous flow, not a quantitative succession of disconnected points.
Interpenetrating moments.
Yes, in durée, moments aren't separate, isolated units. They interpenetrate, they melt into one another like colors in a watercolor painting. Your past isn't simply left behind, a series of forgotten events. It's preserved and carried forward subtly into your present, shaping every single new experience.
The snowball analogy.
Oh, I love that one. He says, my mental state, as it advances on the road of time, is continually swelling with the duration which it accumulates. It goes on increasing, rolling upon itself.
Yeah.
Imagine that snowball getting bigger and bigger, carrying the weight and the temperature of all the snow it's ever gathered. That's our consciousness moving through time.
And that's why it's irreversible.
Precisely. You can never truly pass through the same state twice because the memory of the first state, even if it's totally unconscious, becomes an integral qualitative part of the second. Your present moment is always uniquely infused by your entire past. It's a continuous progress of the past, which gnaws into the future and which swells as it advances.
Gnaws into the future, powerful image.
And this unique, incredibly nuanced understanding of time is, well, it's inextricably linked to Bergson's profound theory of memory. He distinguishes between two very different forms.
Okay.
First, there's what he calls habit memory. This is basically inscribed in the body. Think of it as a set of motor mechanisms we acquire through repetition and practice.
Like riding a bike.
Exactly. Or the automatic finger movements of a pianist playing a complex piece they've practiced countless times. This type of memory doesn't represent the past as a picture in your mind. It acts the past.
It's muscle memory.
Essentially, yes. It's pragmatic, automatic, and always turned toward future action, enabling you to perform tasks efficiently without conscious thought. Okay, that makes sense. But then there's the other kind.
Then there's pure memory. And this is far more profound and frankly quite radical. For Bergson, it's not just a psychological faculty for storing images like some kind of mental hard drive.
Right.
Instead, it's an ontological state. The virtual unconscious preservation of our entire past, moment by moment, in its totality.
Wait, our entire past is still there.
In this view, yes. Our past hasn't simply ceased to exist when a moment passes. It actually coexists in a virtual state with our conscious present. It's all there, virtually, waiting to be called upon or to influence the present.
Wow. So the brain isn't storing it.
The brain's role in this model isn't primarily storage. Instead, it acts as a kind of filter or maybe a reducing valve. It admits into consciousness only those memory images from that vast unconscious reservoir of pure memory that are actually useful for our present action or for responding to a current situation.
So it's a gateway, not a library.
Beautifully put. Yes, a gateway, not a library.
Okay, so to bring these incredible ideas together, the generation of the absolutely new, what Bergson calls genuine creation.
Yes.
It's utterly impossible without this deep, integral, qualitative connection to the totality of one's past. That cumulative, ever-swelling past is the very substance of duration itself.
It's what gives our experiences their unique depth.
Exactly, and ensures that no two moments are ever truly identical. And ultimately, it's what makes true novelty and an open future genuinely possible. It's a deep wellspring from which new ideas spring, not just a pre-filled bucket of old ones. Hashtag 1.3, intellect, intuition, and the cinematographic illusion. Okay, so given these two fundamental movements of reality, you've got the fluid continuous becoming of life on one hand, and the static fragmented solidity of matter on the other.
Right.
Bergson proposes that we humans have two distinct ways of knowing them.
Two faculties, yeah. Intellect and intuition.
Right. Well, let's start with the intellect.
Okay. The intellect is the faculty we use for analysis, for logic. It's the primary tool we employ in science and just for practical living, really.
Yeah.
Its evolutionary purpose for Bergson is intensely pragmatic.
To get things done.
Pretty much. It enables us to act upon the world, to manipulate it, to categorize it. But to do this effectively, the intellect has to treat fluid, continuous reality as if it were a collection of stable, solid, discontinuous objects.
As chop it up.
Exactly. It has this natural, almost irresistible tendency to take the flowing continuity of reality and break it down into manageable static concepts that can then be manipulated, measured, and recombined. Bergson famously said that the intellect dislikes what is fluid and solidifies everything it touches.
Mm-hmm.
And this tendency of the intellect is the origin of what he vividly calls the cinematographic illusion of thought.
Back to the film analogy.
Back to the film analogy. Remember, a movie projects an illusion of smooth, continuous movement by rapidly flashing a series of static, separate snapshots. Our intellect, according to Bergson, does something very similar. It fabricates an understanding of movement and change by stringing together these static snapshots or concepts.
Substituting this artificial reconstruction for the living reality itself.
Precisely. Now, while this method is supremely effective for practical and scientific purposes, it lets us build bridges, invent machines, understand physics, the intellect is, by its very nature, constitutionally incapable of truly grasping the essence of life and duration.
Because its whole method is analytical, breaking things down.
Exactly. It negates their continuous flowing nature. It can describe the parts beautifully, but it misses the living whole.
And that's precisely why intuition is so utterly crucial for Bergson.
The other way of knowing.
Yes. It's the mode of knowing that actually grasps reality in its original, fluid, undivided flux. Bergson describes it as a form of intellectual sympathy. Yeah, it's a conscious effort to place oneself within an object or a phenomena, to coincide with what is unique and inexpressible in it. Its very duration.
So you're not analyzing it from the outside.
Right. Think about the contrast. The intellect stands outside, observing, analyzing from a distance, breaking things apart into discrete pieces. But intuition enters into the thing itself. It offers a direct, immediate, holistic experience of this flow of becoming. It's a way of thinking, not in terms of static space, but in terms of dynamic duration.
It sounds almost mystical, but you're saying it's rigorous.
Absolutely. It's important to clarify that for Bergson, intuition isn't some vague, irrational feeling. It's a rigorous philosophical method. It requires a difficult, almost counterintuitive effort to reverse our ordinary, deeply ingrained practical habits of the intellect.
You have to swim against the current of normal thought.
You really do. He believed that only through intuition, this direct, sympathetic knowing, can we truly access the élan vital and understand the nature of creative evolution from the inside, experiencing creation as it unfolds rather than just analyzing its static aftermath.
Building on all this, Bergson's philosophy of creative evolution is really a sustained and powerful critique of those two deeply ingrained philosophical traditions we mentioned earlier, mechanism and finalism.
Right, the clockwork and the blueprint.
Exactly. Mechanism, remember, posits that the present and future are entirely determined by the past. Everything's just a calculable function of prior states, like a machine whose future moves are already set.
All predictable.
And finalism, or teleology, suggests the present is determined by the future, as if everything is just a realization of a pre-existing plan or goal, a pre-written script. Now, despite seeming like opposites, Bergson argues both share a fatal flaw. They negate real-time and genuine creation by effectively assuming that all is given.
Because if it's all predetermined, nothing's really new.
Precisely. If the future is merely an unrolling of what was already present, or the fulfillment of an eternal predefined plan, then time has no true efficacy. Nothing genuinely radically new can ever come into being. It's all just a rearrangement of the already known.
Bergson, instead, offers us this much more dynamic, open, and frankly, exciting alternative. A universe where the portals of the future remain wide open.
I like that image.
Yeah. For him, creation is a continuous, ongoing, and fundamentally unforeseeable process. He uses that wonderful analogy of a finished portrait.
Yeah.
He can, of course, explain it scientifically, right? By looking at the model's features, the artist's skill, the colors on the palette, the brush strokes. But he argues no one, not even the artist, could have foreseen exactly what the portrait would be. To predict it would have been to produce it before it was produced.
You can't predict it without actually making it.
Exactly. This right there is the profound essence of unforeseeable novelty. It's about generating something truly unprecedented, something that defies prediction, not just another variation on a familiar theme.
And this also leads to Bergson's radical rethinking of order and disorder.
Okay, how so?
Well, what we typically label disorder is, for Bergson, often just an order different from the one we expected or the one we're used to.
So disorder isn't necessarily chaos.
Not in a purely negative sense. The evolution driven by the élan vital doesn't aim for ever-increasing harmony or perfect coherence, not in the way a machine strives for optimal function. In fact, precisely because the vital impetus is this tendency that constantly divides and branches, its progress necessarily creates divergence and conflict.
Like the plant and animal kingdom splitting off.
That's a perfect example. As the original impulse splits, it gives rise to mutually incompatible and antagonistic lines of evolution. Think of that fundamental divergence between plants and animals. They began as one vital impulse, but branched into incredibly different forms of life.
Right.
The result isn't a perfectly orchestrated, predictable system, but one increasingly marked by what might appear as disorder. This disorder, however, isn't a sign of failure. It's the very signature of a free and creative process.
It's the sign of life, in a way.
Exactly. It's the free and unpredictable creativity that results from the life force acting upon its material surroundings, totally distinct from the rigid, geometric, predictable order of inert matter itself. This is what he means by creative disorder, a proliferation of novelty that follows no pre-established path and simply cannot be contained by the static, predictable categories of the intellect.
It's an explosion of possibility rather than a neat, tidy construction.
Beautifully put.
It's truly fascinating how coherent Bergson's whole system is when you see how all these concepts link together, isn't it?
It really hangs together.
You've got the élan vital as the ultimate force of change, but that change is only real, only genuinely new if it occurs within durée, that continuous qualitative flow of time. And durée, in turn, is this continuous accumulation of the past, which is the function of pure memory, that reservoir of our entire lived experience.
And you need intuition to grasp it. Exactly. This entire dynamic process, this living, breathing reality, can only be truly grasped by intuition, because the intellect, as we discussed, is specifically designed to analyze its static material byproducts. If you try to isolate one of these concepts, like just talk about the élan vital without grounding it in duration and memory,
it becomes kind of wishy-washy.
right, it just gets reduced to a kind of mystical slogan, losing its philosophical rigor.
Agreed.
So, what does this remarkably interconnected system of Bergson's mean for our understanding of AI? This framework reveals a core philosophical challenge, I think.
Okay, let's hear it.
Bergson's creation is fundamentally a process of differentiation from a rich, virtual potential. He uses this analogy of a personality in childhood containing diverse persons that, through growth and experience, become incompatible, forcing a choice and differentiation into a singular, unique individual.
Actualizing one path out of many possibilities.
Right. It's the actualization of one past from a multitude of virtual possibilities.
Yeah.
But computational creativity, AI creativity, is fundamentally combinatorial. It's about arranging and rearranging discrete, pre-existing elements, pixels, words, data points.
Things that are already actual.
Exactly. So the profound philosophical distinction here is that AI combines what is already actual, while life differentiates what is virtual.
That's a crucial distinction.
Absolutely critical as we now apply this framework directly to artificial intelligence.
Okay, so based on this comprehensive understanding of Bergson, our central argument becomes pretty clear, I think. AI, in its current pervasive form, well, it's the ultimate triumph and logical endpoint of the Bergsonian intellect.
Wow, the ultimate triumph.
In a specific sense, yes. It's not just a tool. It's a technology that operates by manipulating static, spatialized data, mirroring precisely that cinematographic mechanism of thought that Bergson so keenly critiqued over a century ago.
So it is the movie projector.
In essence, yes. Think about how generative AI actually works. It's trained on these vast data sets, immense collections of discrete static units like text tokens, code snippets, image pixels. These units are fundamentally countless snapshots of past human culture.
Meticulously extracted from their original context.
And crucially, stripped of the lived experience, the durée that actually produced them in the first place. The AI algorithm then functions precisely like the Bergsonian intellect. It analyzes this immense collection of static fragments, identifies statistical patterns, correlations, regularities within them, and then reassembles them to produce a new configuration that fulfills a practical goal, which is usually your prompt.
So what you're saying is that AI's entire operation is essentially happening on spatialized time?
Completely.
It has no genuine access to the continuous, irreversible flow of becoming that Bergson talked about. Its entire universe is literally a colossal database of past moments of static data points that can be endlessly rearranged, recombined, resequenced.
It's a system built entirely on repetition and similarity, which, as we discussed, Bergson rigorously assigned to the domain of matter and the intellect, a domain fundamentally withdrawn from the action of real-time and genuine novelty.
It's almost unsettling, isn't it? To realize how the machine-like, automatic, and, for Bergson, the least creative part of the human mind,
The habit-driven part.
has served as the precise model for artificial intelligence. This means AI isn't an analog to the truly creative mind. It's more like an apotheosis of the pragmatic, analytical intellect, just raised to a power we couldn't have imagined before.
It truly is the ultimate expression of the mechanistic worldview, operating under the premise that all is given in the data set. It functions as if the future can simply be calculated as a deterministic function of the past, because everything it needs to generate is already contained within its vast training data.
So no true surprises, only complex recombinations.
From this perspective, yes. And to clarify this even further, we can apply Bergson's crucial distinction between the two types of memory we discuss.
Habit memory versus pure memory.
Exactly. And AI's training data functions as a vast and incredibly sophisticated form of habit memory. It embodies countless learned behaviors, patterns, and responses derived from its training. However, and this is the crucial point for our discussion on creativity, it entirely lacks pure memory.
That's a really important distinction. So the AI datasets enable the machine to sort of act out responses based on its training, mimicking skills and recognition without any actual understanding.
Precisely. It learns to associate prompts with statistically probable outputs through repeated exposure to billions upon billions of patterns.
So it can mimic artistic styles with uncanny accuracy, replicate grammar perfectly, generate coherent images.
Yes, because it has, metaphorically speaking, amassed an enormous library of bodily habits related to these tasks. This is the exact function of habit memory. Pragmatic, motor-based, oriented towards action, and utterly automatic, devoid of any conscious, lived representation of the past.
It just does, based on statistics.
It just does, based on statistical likelihoods. But the AI possesses no pure memory. It has no indivisible, qualitative, personal accumulation of a lived past that constitutes the very substance of consciousness.
No inner self flowing through time.
Beautifully said. No inner self flowing through time. No internal duration that swells with every passing moment. Its memory is an externalized, spatialized database, a collection of facts, patterns, relationships, not an internal, evolving, living duration.
So it can't make that leap into the virtual past Bergson talked about.
It simply cannot perform the Bergsonian leap into the virtual past to retrieve a unique, singular, lived experience that truly transforms the present. Instead, it can only retrieve and recombine static fragments that are already actualized within its data.
And this fundamental lack, that's the philosophical root of the common critiques.
I believe so. This fundamental lack of pure memory and duration is, philosophically speaking, the root of many common critiques leveled against AI creativity. That it lacks genuine intentionality, emotional depth, personal perspective, lived experience.
The very qualities often seen as the irreducible hallmarks of human art.
Exactly, the qualities of authentic expression. It's like an AI can perfectly simulate the brushstrokes, the colors, the overall style of Van Gogh.
It can look like Van Gogh.
It can look exactly like Van Gogh, but it cannot access the duration of a life, the specific emotional landscape, the personal struggles and profound insights that culminated in Starry Night. That unique, lived experience, that inner swelling of time that makes an artwork truly unique and resonant, is simply beyond its grasp.
This crucial point brings us directly to what some people are calling the creative double bind, experienced by many artists and creators today.
Yes, the push and pull.
Yeah, it's that simultaneous attraction to AI as this powerful, almost magical tool, coupled with a deep, maybe existential fear of it as a replacement. For Bergson, the intellect's ultimate purpose is tool-making, right? Homo faber, the toolmaker, extending human power over matter. AI is undeniably an intellectual tool of unprecedented power. It can automate tasks of recombination and mimicry at a scale and speed that is deeply attractive.
The embrace.
Exactly, the embrace, the sheer utility and potential for exploration that AI offers. However, because this tool operates mechanistically, without that vital spark of human duration, without that lived, accumulating past, it also threatens to devalue and even replace the very human creative process it simulates.
The fear.
The fear. It produces outputs that are superficially similar. They look like art, sound like music, read like poetry, but are, from a Bergsonian perspective, qualitatively different. This leads to the worry that the machine generated will somehow hollow out the meaning of human creation.
So this double bind isn't just economic anxiety.
No, it's profoundly philosophical, I think.
Yeah.
Rooted in this deep tension between AI as a powerful but essentially lifeless instrument and the vital durational nature of human creativity.
Okay, to maybe give you a systematic philosophical diagnosis and a clear way to visualize these complex ideas, let's try mapping Bergson's core metaphysical dichotomies directly onto the analogous functions within AI systems.
Like a side-by-side comparison.
Exactly. I think this juxtaposition really clarifies, point by point, how AI's operations align perfectly with the concepts Bergson associated with matter, space, and the intellect, while remaining fundamentally separate from those he associated with life, time, and intuition. It's quite revealing when you lay it out.
Okay, let's do it. Where do we start?
Let's start with time. On the Bergsonian side, you have duration, durée, its defining characteristics. Qualitative, continuous, irreversible, and ever-accumulating flow of lived, conscious experience. It's time as you feel it. The AI analog. Clock time computation, its characteristics. Quantitative, discrete, reversible, sequential processing of static data points. For AI, time is just a series of calculations.
So a fundamental difference right there.
Yeah.
Flow versus segments.
Precisely. Next, let's look at memory. Bergson gives us pure memory. Defining characteristics, the virtual coexistence of your entire past with your present, the very substance of consciousness, a holistic, evolving archive of your being. The AI analog is its training data database. Characteristics, a static, actualized collection of past human outputs, words, images, sounds accessed via retrieval and statistical analysis. AI's memory is external, a vast library, but it doesn't live its past.
No personal history, only inherited patterns.
Okay.
What about the act of knowing or creating?
Good question. The act of knowing, creating. For Bergson, the key is intuition, characteristics, a direct, sympathetic entering into the flow of reality to grasp its meek, indivisible essence, a spontaneous leap from within. The AI analog, perhaps prompt engineering, characteristics, an external intellectual act of providing precise instructions to guide a mechanistic process. You, the human, tell the machine what to do.
So internal insight versus external instruction.
Exactly. Now, consider the tool of analysis. Bergson identifies the intellect, characteristics, the analytic faculty that spatializes reality, breaking it down into static objects for practical action, loves categories. The AI analog is clearly the algorithm neural network. Characteristics, a system that rigorously analyzes discrete data points to identify patterns and generate combinations. It is the computational intellect.
The embodiment of analysis. Makes sense. What about the source?
The source of creation. Bergson posits the élan vital, characteristics, the indivisible creative impulse driving the unforeseeable evolution of truly new forms, pushing beyond the existing. The AI analog is its generative process. Characteristics, a probabilistic combinatorial mechanism producing variations on existing forms by statistical prediction and rearrangement. An engine of variation, not an origin of pure novelty.
Variation versus true origination. Okay.
Yeah.
And finally, the result.
The result of creation. For Bergson, it's becoming. Characteristics, the continuous, unpredictable creation of the absolutely new, something unpredictable from what came before. The AI analog. Recombination mimicry. Characteristics, the rearrangement of pre-existing elements into novel configurations or replicating existing styles. Clever assembly, not absolute emergence.
Wow. Laying it out like that really drives home how AI, in its very structure and operation, aligns almost perfectly with those aspects of reality. Bergson linked to matter, space, and the intellect.
It's an intellectual powerhouse, undeniably.
But as we've explored, it remains fundamentally disconnected from the very qualities Bergson attributed to life, time, and true intuition. It can mimic, combine, approximate.
But it lacks that vital spark of genuine durational creation, hashtag 2.4 emergence or recombination. The question of AI is novelty.
Now, a very common and, let's be honest, compelling defense of AI's creativity, one you hear all the time, is its capacity for emergent behavior.
Right, the surprising outputs.
Exactly. The ability to produce outputs that are surprising, unpredictable, and seemingly not explicitly programmed by its human creators. So the crucial question we have to ask through this Bergsonian lens is this so-called emergent behavior genuine creation in the vital sense Bergson envisioned?
Well, from a Bergsonian perspective, this kind of emergence, while undoubtedly impressive in its complexity, really needs to be carefully distinguished from genuine creation. AI's emergent properties certainly arise from the immense complexity of its neural network and the intricate interaction of its myriad components, leading to outcomes that definitely surprise us.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like magic.
It can feel that way. However, this remains squarely within the domain of what Bergson would call a sophisticated mechanism. The novelty produced by AI is ultimately one of combination and arrangement. The AI discovers and generates incredibly complex statistical relationships within what is essentially a closed system.
Defined by its architecture and its training data.
Exactly. It is not, in Bergson's terms, producing the absolutely new or an unforeseeable creation of form. The novelty it generates is, in principle, calculable, even if it's not practically predictable by a human observer because of the sheer scale of the calculations involved.
So that's complex, but not fundamentally unpredictable in the way life is.
That's the argument. The AI simply cannot break from its own past, meaning its vast dataset and its underlying programming, in the radical way that élan Vidale can, which creates entirely new, divergent paths of evolution, truly generating something from, well, not nothing, but from virtual potential.
It's fascinating that this philosophical distinction is actually kind of echoed in the current legal framework around AI and copyright, isn't it?
How so?
Well, for instance, the U.S. Copyright Office has consistently affirmed that copyright protection cannot be granted to works where the expressive elements are determined by a machine.
Because there's no human author.
Right. Their reasoning is that human authorship is a prerequisite for copyright. This legal position seems grounded in the idea that such machine generation is more akin to mechanical reproduction or sophisticated assemblage, rather than the product of human authorship with its necessary spark of creativity.
Interesting. So the law, like Bergson, implicitly recognizes a qualitative difference.
It seems so. A qualitative difference between the combinatorial output of a machine and the durational, intentional, truly novel creation of a human being. It's not just about how complex the combination is, but about the origin of the creative act.
Indeed. And in a powerful way, the very existence and everyday operation of AI thus serve as a compelling, concrete illustration of the limitations of the intellect that Bergson spent his entire career critiquing.
As cinematographic metaphor.
It's no longer just a philosophical analogy, it's the literal engineering principle of how modern generative models function. They analyze static frames of data and string them together to create an illusion of coherence. And when we look at AI's characteristic failures, its notorious lack of common sense, its frustrating inability to grasp broader context, its bizarre hallucinations where it generates nonsensical or illogical outputs.
Yeah, the weird stuff.
The weird stuff. These are precisely the failures Bergson attributed to the intellect when it attempts to grasp the fluid, interconnected whole of reality by analyzing its discrete, static parts. In this profound sense, the rise of AI provides a powerful empirical case for the validity of Bergson's epistemology and his enduring warning against the philosophical error of reducing the vibrant, flowing complexity of reality to what is merely computable or mechanically reproducible.
Okay, so we've just spent a good chunk of time conducting this deep Bergsonian diagnosis of AI's limitations when it comes to true, vital creativity. We've seen how it operates on static data, lacks genuine duration and pure memory, and ultimately generates novelty through recombination rather than true differentiation.
The pretty thorough critique.
Right. But the real value here, I think, lies not just in diagnosing its limitations, but in maybe reframing its potential. We need to shift our focus, perhaps, from looking at AI's output as just a finished, static artifact.
Like painting on a wall.
Exactly. And start considering its generative process as a dynamic temporal happening.
Yeah.
This could open up a completely new and exciting understanding of AI's creative potential, one that isn't about mere mimicry, but about its unique ability to introduce a particular form of creative disorder and function as an unpredictable, often surprising collaborator.
Yeah, the conventional approach to evaluating AI-generated content is almost always to look at it as a finished product. Is the image beautiful? Is the text coherent? Is it good art by human standards?
Then that leads to comparisons.
Exactly. That line of questioning almost inevitably leads to direct comparisons with human creators, and often the conclusion that AI, while technically proficient, lacks true depth, intentionality, or originality. A Bergsonian reframing, however, requires us to move radically beyond this focus on this static artifact. Instead, we have to shift our gaze and consider the generative process itself as a dynamic, unfolding, temporal event, a happening.
That's a crucial pivot. Because while the AI system itself doesn't experience durée internally, it's undeniable that its operation is an event that unfolds in time for us, for the human observer.
Right. When you type a prompt, wait and see the output generate, that's a process in time.
Exactly. You're witnessing a complex, real-time interplay of algorithm, the vast data set it draws from, and your own specific instructions. This constitutes a profound performative act. It's not creation in that deep, vital Bergsonian sense of something truly new emerging from duration, but it is undeniably something that happens, an eruption of unforeseen complexity and combination into the world.
So this perspective helps us de-emphasize those traditional questions of authorship, originality, static artistic value.
The ones that have so dominated the AI debate. Instead, we shift our focus to asking fundamentally different questions. What kind of event is this? And, maybe more importantly, what does this specific event make possible in the ongoing flow of human experience and creation?
And this reframing, this idea of AI as a performative event rather than just a product generator, finds concrete and exciting expression in real-world applications, particularly in how AI is being used in live performance art.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, we're seeing avant-garde artists now actively incorporating real-time AI generation into theatrical productions, musical compositions, even dance. Imagine a play where the script isn't fixed, but is spontaneously generated by an AI in response to audience input or even the actors' movements, forcing them to improvise in real time. Or visual backdrops that morph and respond dynamically to the live action on stage, creating an ever-changing environment. In these contexts, the AI is not just a tool for producing a predetermined outcome, like rendering a static image. It literally becomes an unpredictable, co-creating actor within a durational event, constantly interacting with human actors and the audience.
So the value isn't the correctness of the AI's output.
Not at all. The value isn't correctness or whether it adheres to traditional aesthetics, but its remarkable capacity to introduce chance, surprise, and genuine novelty into the lived experience of the performance itself. It becomes a vital, unpredictable part of the unfolding moment, a chaotic force that demands immediate, intuitive human response. And here's maybe the ultimate paradox. AI's most genuinely novel and creatively interesting contributions might not come from its successes in perfectly mimicking human patterns, but precisely from its failures, the glitches, the bizarre artifacts, the surreal hallucinations, the seemingly nonsensical outputs that often plague generative models when they kind of break.
The weird stuff again.
The weird stuff. It can be interpreted as a form of unintentional yet remarkably potent creative disorder.
These errors are truly fascinating because they represent moments where the system's rigid mechanistic logic breaks down, right? Or it misinterprets a prompt in some completely unexpected way, or simply produces an outcome that deviates wildly from the statistically probable result it was trained to create.
Yeah, it goes off script.
Totally. And this isn't the intentional disorder of a human artist who deliberately breaks conventions for a specific meaningful effect, like a surrealist painter. No, this is an inhuman disorder. An unexpected configuration that disrupts established patterns of sense and form because the machine simply isn't operating with human understanding or intuition.
It doesn't know the rules it's breaking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In Bergson's terms, this is where the predictable geometric order of the machine gets fractured, and something genuinely unforeseeable emerges. Novelty that doesn't originate from a vital impulse, but paradoxically from the inherent limitations and complexities of the mechanistic process itself. It's like the machine stumbling into genius by accident.
And indeed, artists and theorists are now actively beginning to explore this poetics of error, embracing these glitches not as technical flaws to be fixed, but as the unique aesthetic signature of the machine.
Interesting.
These moments of failure are precisely the points of genuine surprise in what might otherwise be a deterministic, calculable process. They are, effectively, cracks in the computational facade through which a strange, alien novelty can appear. This aligns quite well with Bergson's view of evolution itself, which he saw as a process fraught with deviations, arrests, and setbacks that run alongside the main lines of progress.
So AI's glitches are like its own evolutionary oddities.
You could see them that way. While not alive biologically, they undeniably introduce new and unexpected forms into our cultural ecosystem, forcing us to rethink our definitions of beauty and meaning.
And this is precisely where that common critique that AI lacks intentionality and lived experience, which is a limitation when you're judging it by human standards, actually transforms into a powerful creative feature from this new perspective. Human creativity is, by its very nature, guided by a lifetime of accumulated duration, deep cultural context, nuanced intention. We create within a framework of meaning.
Right.
AI, completely lacking these, operates with a kind of statistical otherness.
All right.
Its creative disorders, the notorious six-fingered hands in AI images, the melting faces, the unsettling, nonsensical juxtapositions we often see, they stem directly from this lack of human understanding.
It combines things a human never would.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't know they don't belong in any meaningful sense.
Yeah.
Therefore, AI's unique value isn't in its ability to perfectly replicate human creativity, or even to be human, but in its capacity to generate novelty from a place outside of human intuition, from a realm of pure statistical possibility.
Introducing a genuinely alien form of happening.
Exactly, offering a truly unique kind of surprise.
Ultimately, then, the true locus of creativity in the age of AI is maybe not to be found in the machine itself, nor solely in the isolated human,
But in the interaction.
but in the new emergent hybrid human-AI assemblage. The creative act in this new paradigm becomes a dynamic, unpredictable dialogue between human intuition and machine generation. It's no longer one or the other. It's the interplay that really matters.
And within this assemblage, the human user plays an indispensable, vital role.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely crucial.
You initiate this whole process with a spark of intuition, a feeling, a vague idea, a curiosity, which then gets translated into the intellectual act of prompt engineering. But then, crucially, you conclude it through equally intuitive acts of curation, interpretation, and refinement.
Selecting, shaping.
Exactly. The AI in this scenario functions as this powerful and unpredictable collaborator, an engine for generating a vast, almost overwhelming field of possibility, a veritable chaos of forms and ideas that the human intellect alone simply couldn't produce, at least not at that scale or speed. And when you view the entire creative process as a whole, it now gains a distinct duration. It begins with human intention, then passes through this mechanistic explosion of possibilities generated by the AI, and then returns to the human for intuitive selection, meaning-making, and also further refinement.
So the human's cognitive ecosystem gets extended.
Profoundly extended, yeah. To include this chaotic, generative engine that can be steered and harvested, it's like having a lightning storm you can direct for creative purposes.
That's a great image. And this model of a human-AI assemblage isn't just speculative. It aligns quite well with contemporary cognitive frameworks, like the System 0, 1, 2, 3 model that some cognitive scientists talk about.
How does that map onto it?
Well, in this assemblage, the human primarily engages in what we might call System 2 thinking. That's the slow, deliberate prompting, planning, critical evaluation. And they also engage in System 1 thinking, the fast, intuitive recognition of a valuable or interesting output that emerges from the AI. The AI itself can be seen as a kind of externalized System 0, performing what's sometimes called morphological computation on the vast landscape of its training data, a pre-cognitive pattern-matching process that generates this massive field of potential for the higher-level cognitive systems of the human user to act upon.
So it's providing raw, unexpected material for human intuition to sculpt.
Exactly. Providing raw material for human intuition to make sense of and shape into something meaningful.
And here's the ultimate paradox, maybe the truly compelling point for us, the humans. This interaction might actually serve as a powerful catalyst for strengthening the very human faculty that AI fundamentally lacks.
Which is?
Intuition. Bergson argued that we often live most of our lives on the surface, guided by the practical habits of the intellect, by social conventions, by what's predictable.
Right, the easy path.
AI is becoming exceptionally proficient at automating the production of this surface-level content, the generic, the formulaic, the statistically probable. The resulting flood of AI-generated work, which is often technically proficient, but, as we've argued, maybe emotionally and spiritually vacant.
It creates a kind of crisis of meaning.
It does. A crisis of meaning and value.
And in response to this overwhelming noise of machinic replication, that which is uniquely human genuine insight, authentic emotional resonance, the unmistakable mark of a singular lived duration, the spark of true originality becomes more conspicuous, more precious, and critically more prized.
You notice it more when it's surrounded by the generic.
Exactly. To discern this authentic value amidst the sheer volume of technically competent but perhaps uninspired machine output, we are increasingly forced to engage and refine our intuition. This is the very faculty Bergson championed as the only path to grasping true reality, to experiencing the continuous flow of becoming.
So in this profoundly ironic way,
AI, the ultimate tool of the intellect and the epitome of mechanism, may become the unlikely catalyst for a powerful, necessary return to intuition, forcing us to deepen our uniquely human creative capacities. #, conclusion.
So wow, we've taken a truly expansive and thought-provoking deep dive today. Our Bergsonian diagnosis seems pretty clear. AI, as the apotheosis of the Bergsonian intellect, fundamentally operates on static data.
It lacks genuine durée and pure memory.
Right, meaning it simply cannot be creative in the vital sense Bergson envisioned. Its novelty is, at its core, sophisticated recombination, a complex calculation of existing patterns, not the unforeseeable, truly new creation that springs from the élan vital.
But as we've really tried to argue, the true value of a Bergsonian analysis isn't to diagnose AI's limitations and just stop there, resigned to a future of mechanical art.
No, it's about reframing.
Exactly. It's to reframe the question entirely. AI's true creative potential, we believe, is realized not by judging its static outputs against human art, but by shifting our focus to its dynamic performance as a happening, an unfolding event in time.
And its creative disorders.
Yeah.
The glitches, the errors, the hallucinations.
They're not mere flaws, but the surprising, unique signatures of an alien form of generation that can offer genuinely novel inputs into our world.
This radical shift in perspective means AI isn't a rival creator at all, set to replace us. Instead, it's this powerful, inhuman collaborator, a dynamic force that can shake up our creative processes. It is perhaps a vital machine.
Vital machine, I like that.
Yeah, not because it is alive in the biological sense, but because its operations, when integrated into a human-AI assemblage, can paradoxically catalyze, provoke, and amplify the very forces of intuition and unforeseeable novelty that define the creative evolution of life itself.
And that's where the new dialogue begins. By confronting human consciousness with this explosion of mechanistic possibilities, AI compels us, forces us even, to intensely exercise our intuition, to find meaning, to make crucial choices amidst the chaos, and to steer the very course of creation in an increasingly complex world. The focus shifts from merely judging a product's correctness to embracing the richness and unpredictability of the performative event itself, opening a truly new chapter in the enduring dialogue between the vital and the mechanical, the virtual and the actual. #, outro.
We've taken a truly profound journey today, haven't we? Exploring how an early 20th century philosopher can shed such incredible light on our very modern, pressing questions about artificial intelligence.
It really is a powerful reminder that philosophical inquiry often illuminates far beyond its immediate time. These ideas offer timeless frameworks for understanding our rapidly changing world.
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day, maybe mull this over. If AI excels at generating the statistically probable and the familiar, what does that really mean for your unique human capacity? The capacity to generate the truly improbable, the genuinely new. Does the existence of the vital machine diminish or perhaps elevate the creative spark only you possess? What new forms of disorder might you welcome into your own creative process to unlock novel and surprising possibilities?
Something to think about. Thank you for joining us on AI History of Western Philosophy.
Until
next time.